Alright, this first video in our level creation process is going to be a little bit on the rhetorical side. I'm really throwing it in here as a reminder of good habits more than anything else. And that is to never, ever, ever jump into level design without some sort of a plan in place. Make sure that if you're going to build a level, you have an idea of what that level's going to be before you go in and start doing anything in Unity. Don't just jump in and say, like, you know what, I'm going to make some kind of a game level today. Or you just sit down, open up Unity, and go, I think I'm going to make a game. And you don't know what. You'll just sit there and spin your wheels, and you won't know where to go. And even if you think, oh, well, I know it's going to be outdoors, so I could start with a terrain, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, it's that blank page, infinite possibility problem.
Yeah, and it is a problem. You need your game to have focus. You need your design to have focus. So always create some form of a plan. Now, in our case, we have a game that we're going to be demonstrating to you that we have prototyped. But even when we prototyped it, we were taking all kinds of notes. We were drawing all kinds of pretty pictures and sketching out what we thought the thing would look like. And what I wanted to do here, again, a little bit of a rhetorical video, was just to give you an idea of ways in which you could go about it. I'm not asking anybody in the room to be a good artist. I don't care if you feel like you can't draw, or if you can get little boxes down to represent various aspects of your level, you're good to go. Or even if you don't want to draw and you just want to jot down some general notes on what you want, create some sort of a plan, create some sort of an idea that you're going to follow to help you with the decision-making process as you move throughout the design. So, what are we going to do? What kind of game are we going to make, Lee?
Well, this one's going to just be a simplified third-person platform puzzle type game. So, we've already decided the play style that we're going to have. We've decided that there's not going to be any combat. We're just going to solve puzzles.
That's right. And these things would be important, especially if you're going to be creating any more programming for it. So, I mean, no combat, that simplifies things. There will be puzzles. Knowing that is critical right out of the gate. If you sit down and go like, oh, I'm going to make a game, and then like 2 days into it, you're like, man, there should be puzzles. That's not good. One, you weren't thinking about the puzzles in the first place, and it's entirely likely that your levels and whatnot would be designed around those puzzles. You need to know this kind of stuff beforehand. So, we know this is going to be a third-person platformer. We know it's going to be about puzzles. Let's talk a little bit about the setting. Where's this going to take place? Well, we're going to put it in a crater.
Right, and part of that reasoning came from the fact that we are using a third-person system.
Yeah.
So we know we're going to be able to move the camera, and we know we're going to be able to orbit it, so we had to take that into consideration when designing our level to make sure that our camera couldn't get outside of it.
Right, and maybe you're like, oh, well, how did you just randomly call up a crater? Okay, so maybe you don't. Maybe you just start really generally, and you think, well, do we want an open, endless field of terrain that seems to go off into nowhere, or do we want to keep everything contained into an arena kind of level? And you've seen that in a lot of games. Do you keep everything kind of, squashed in so you can't necessarily keep roaming on forever? And we decided that we were more interested in the arena type level, mostly for simplicity's sake. Keep everything nicely, tightly contained so that we can maintain a focus and show exactly what we're going to be teaching.
Right. It made it a lot easier to constrain the flow of motion through our level.
That's right. Now, what kind of terrain? Oh, I'm sorry. What kind of arenas exist out there in the world? Because we knew that we wanted our level to seem natural, not man-made. Part of that reasoning was because of assets. We didn't want to have to go look up a whole bunch of buildings or anything like that, or create some sort of really highly complex interior in which everything could take place. We knew it had to happen outside, and we didn't have a whole bunch of city streets and things like that to work from. So it needed to look natural. So what kind of arenas exist in the world that are natural? Well, just so happens craters. So that's how we came up with that. It's an iterative process. You're going to talk about it. You're going to discuss it with your friends. You're going to jot down ideas and mull those ideas over. So we knew it's going to be a crater. It's going to look very natural. It's going to have things like rocks and trees and grass and water, which ended up leading us to the idea of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was a waterfall? Wouldn't it be cool if there was also a cave?
Yep.
And then, just to make things more interesting, kind of in the sense of classic 3D platformers like Tomb Raider, we're going to have a temple-like, or some sort of strange temple building, just kind of spooky looking. We decide on all of this stuff beforehand. We knew before our fingers touched mice, really, that all of this stuff was decided upon. Then, go ahead, please.
Well, even before we got into Unity, we opened up Maya and go, well, how would we want to do this? We could very quickly make a little crater shape, and then we what if we put our temple on this side and we put our cave over here, and this is where we think we'll put the waterfall.
That's true, and actually that's a really good point, because even if you don't want to touch pencil to paper, because I know there's some of you out there, because I've talked to you on 3D Buzz before, and you're Maya people or you're 3ds Max people, and for some reason the idea of sketching ideas out just terrifies some folks.
Right. And some people don't have the artistic chops with a pencil to get it, and they try.
I don't even like hearing that, because I think you've got enough, any one of you watching this video has enough artistic chops, even if you don't think you do, to get a basic idea down that you could follow. I'm not saying anybody else could follow it. That's not important. If you can get something down that reminds you of what it was you were thinking at the time, you're good to go. But if you're just terrified of drawing a picture, but you're comfortable with making some cubes and some primitives and doing a few extrusions and whatnot in Maya or 3ds Max or whatever application you like, do that. Prototype out your level and get some kind of a plan in place. And that's what we did. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of represent our plan graphically here inside of Photoshop. So once we had decided on all of this, it was time to create kind of like a basic map in just yeah, it's just a map. It's
just
a floor
real top down.
It's a floor plan, is all it is. And so we started off with our crater.
A circle.
Yep. Crater. And I mean, you show this to your friends. They're like, is it a beach ball? Is it the Death Star? Is it a hula hoop? What is that? This is all we needed to represent a crater. Now, we knew we wanted this temple in it, and we didn't want the temple to just be like right in the center of the crater.
Right.
We needed that to be kind of off to the side. So here's the extent of how nicely you need to draw this. And actually, it's probably nicer than it needs to be.
Yeah,
Temple.
That's what happens when you watch Indiana Jones Crusader too much. And
yeah.
It's like going, we got to put a temple inside our cliff face.
That's true. That's exactly what we were thinking. We needed some sort of a temple face that kind of went right into the cliff. And so that's where we came up with that. Now, we wanted an excuse to make a cave. Because the terrain system in Unity doesn't allow for that sort of thing.
Right.
You've got to build a cave inside of Maya, and then you've got to integrate it into your terrain. And that's what we wanted to do. So we took a section, say, right about here to right about here, and we just make this little U-shaped, half-donut kind of cave thing. It's just something that we could run through, if for no other reason than to say that we have one.
Yep.
Because it's cool. Now, in between the two, just for the fun of it, this is where we're going to stick the waterfall.
Actually, the waterfall is in between the caves, the two entrances.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, see, and this is why we planned, because you're like, oh, dude, I don't like the idea of the waterfall being there. So we could take our cave and be like, no, Zach, you're like totally off, man. That wouldn't look good at all. Let's put